Hey, what's up guys, John here. China's largest real estate builder and developer, Evergrande, has been ordered to liquidate all of their assets to settle $300 billion worth of debt, owed mainly to Chinese banks, but also a lot of exposure to BlackRock and some of America's biggest banks as well.
Chinese real estate giant Evergrande has been ordered to liquidate by a court in Hong Kong.
The company, which has extensive holdings in China, has more than $300 billion in liabilities.
And you start to look at all of these big problems behind the scene. For example, Country Garden, the second largest builder in China, they are now liquidating assets to try to pay back some of their creditors. They're defaulting on their bills as well. And you start to add everything up. What you're going to start to see here is a situation where we could see China start to liquidate a lot of U.S. treasuries because these banks are going to be in very difficult positions very soon. And if they do this, what will that do? It will increase interest rates here in America, and it will make a weaker dollar. And when you start to add everything up together, it would equate to a perfect scenario for BRICS. We're walking into a very big change coming to the global order. In this video, I'm going to break it down and show you exactly what's going on and what you should do to position and prepare yourself for what I believe is going to be the greatest wealth transfer in American history. Please hit the like button. Hit the like button. YouTube will share this content to educate the people about what's going on in America. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule a free strategy session for Tuesday. Take a look at this. So, Evergrande crisis hit Chinese property giant ordered to liquidate $300 billion. $300 billion owed mainly to banks and bondholders. Now, you start to look at this. U.S. treasuries held by Chinese banks equate to a whopping $859.4 billion, right? That's what they owe. You start to add everything up, and it's just so perfect. So if China were to sell its U.S. Treasury bonds, it would potentially lead to a higher interest rate here in America, a weaker U.S. dollar, reduced investor confidence, increased borrowing costs for the U.S. government, and a broader implication for the global financial market. And then you just start to add in all of the advancements that BRICS have been essentially bringing forward the last couple of years, adding country after country, every single month, adding more and more power behind their movement. It would be the perfect scenario for them, like the absolute perfect scenario. The report from Morgan Stanley stressed that the U.S. dollar is being increasingly scrutinized across the globe from BRICS bloc to ASEAN countries. Developing nations are looking at alternatives to the U.S. dollar financial system. A clear shift towards reducing dollar dependency is evident, simultaneously fueling interest in digital currencies such as Bitcoin, stablecoins, and CBDCs, wrote Morgan Stanley analyst Andrew Peel, the bank executive director and head of digital asset market, report titled Digital Dollarization. So this is what we're walking into. And you just start to look at all of these things that are just happening the last couple days. De-risk, China's U.S. bond footprint fades. And they are reducing their exposure at the fastest level that we've essentially ever seen. So the latest figure in China held 782 billion U.S. treasuries in November, a large amount, but around its smallest in 15 years and down significantly from its peak to 1.3 trillion in 2011. So they've already reduced their exposure 50% inside of, call it the last 13 years, right? This is the perfect excuse to start to move into this direction. And so when you look at BlackRock, HSBC, among the largest buyers of Evergrande, this came out in September of 2021. And so when you look at where the stock was around then in September, depending on when they bought it, maybe they bought it around here in August, maybe it was in September, but regardless, around $2, $2.50, maybe even here closer to $3.99. But now it's trading, it's not even trading, it's 0.022, it's on pause. When you start to look at this, you're going to start to see a bunch of dominoes start to fall here. So it's interesting how they position this whole thing. They say real estate drove China's economic boom, but developers borrowed heavily as they turned cities into forests of apartments and office towers that helped push its total corporate, government, and household debt, an equivalent of more than 300% of annual economic output, usually high for the middle-income country. If the Chinese property market plunges into turmoil over the difficulties of Evergrande, there could be a knockoff effect which would put real estate projects as far as London at risk, and many Chinese investors' financing terms. On the other hand, the European Central Bank said earlier European banks have no significant exposure to Evergrande, and any collapse would have limited impact on European markets. Well, let's look at this. They owe foreign creditors $25.4 billion. This is just debts owed, BlackRock and a lot of these big corporations. $25.4 billion what they owe. And so when you look at Country Garden in October 27th, they defaulted on their debt, right? October 25th, Country Garden defaulted on dollar bond declared for the first time. China's real estate market teetering as Country Garden signals it will default on a massive $186 billion in debt, October 18th. So you see the trend here. And now they're looking to do something very interesting. They're looking to sell. They're auctioning off $530 million of assets. And why are they doing this? Well, they're doing this because they have no choice. And when you start to see, Evergrande start to liquidate, and these banks start to walk into trouble, and Country Garden start to liquidate, what do you think is going to happen? Supply and demand. Chinese property values are going to plummet, and with it, a lot of change is going to be coming to the global world order. So BlackRock, for example, just with Country Garden, in August 15th, 2023, they held $358.5 million in Country Garden dollar bonds. So it's very fascinating. They have all of this debt. And now at the same exact time, they're all walking into this problem. But who would have predicted such a thing? I mean, last 4 years, we saw the biggest stimulus program in the world happen at the same exact time. And interest rates were brought down extremely low. Everyone was pushing into real estate. And now banks are basically rug pulling all real estate developers, a lot of investors that are heavily levered, that can't, refinance at this current environment. So what's going to happen? We're going to start to see a wave of some of these defaults start to happen, right? And what I believe is going to happen here is I believe we're going to start to see the US dollar start to slowly, it's not going to be like a light switch, it's going to slowly start losing purchasing power. And I think Jerome Powell is going to keep interest rates higher for longer. And if we start to see this sell-off happen, we're going to see interest rates start to really pick up, which I think is a very interesting proposition to consider, because when you look at where U.S. households are in terms of debt, you have $17 trillion in outstanding consumer debt. You have 49% of Americans that are rolling over credit card debt month to month, the highest interest rates on credit cards in U.S. history right now. I mean, looking back at 2008, interest rates on credit cards, they were 12 to 13%. Now they're at 25%. Some of these retail credit cards are 32, 33% interest rates. So you start to look at all of this debt that's being held. And then if they keep interest rates higher and the dollar starts to purchase less and inflation gets worse, just imagine what would likely happen. This is all happening at the same exact time that they're claiming that AI and technology and robotics and generative AI and all this stuff is going to be coming out in the next year or two. Job losses are going to be coming. So all of these things are happening at the same exact time. Some analysts are predicting that we're going to see upwards of 40% of jobs being affected over the next 24 months due to technological innovation. So you start to look at all of this. The big question is, how are we not walking into a massive transfer of wealth, assets, and freedom and power? How are we not walking into this? I see no other way out, and I personally think that it's very, very wise for people to play the defense right now. It's very wise to have some cash, really look at things really closely. The world's changing rapidly, and those that are paying attention are going to have an advantage, and those that are not are going to get rug pulled, and then they're going to be, wondering, oh, how did this happen? I thought we were back to normal. I thought this was 2018, 2019. No. We're not going back to normal. We're going back to times in which we've never seen before, right? We're going into this new normal, which is going to be unlike anything anyone has ever experienced. What do you think about this situation? Do you think that we're walking into a scenario where China could in fact start to liquidate these treasuries? They've already liquidated 50% of their entire holdings over the last 13 years. Are they going to have this perfect excuse where banks are going to have no choice but to start liquidating this, and we're going to start to see a more expensive America? And at the same exact time, like, how perfect is this? America is going through this energy transition, which is likely going to be an expensive transition. McKinsey predicted that it's going to be somewhere around $9.2 trillion per year, about a third of overall U.S. debt every single year. Meanwhile, China, they're building out all these power plants. You look at India. I mean, India basically owns the periodic table, right? They have cheap energy. They have cheap labor. All these countries working together. And then America is walking into a problem. That's what I believe. Probably the next 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to start to see America walk into a very, very, very big problem. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop below. Let's have a conversation about this. And if you'd like to fix your credit to position yourself, what I believe, without doubt, will be the greatest transfer of assets and wealth America has ever seen. It's going to start happening this year. I would bet almost anything on it. This year, next year, it's just going to start getting worse and worse and worse. So put yourself in a really strong position, accumulate assets. The more wealth that you have, the bigger of a moat of safety you can build around yourself and your family around this insane new world that we live in. Drop below. And if you want to fix your credit, again, click the link in the description just below. GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link, schedule a free strategy session for Tuesday, and I'll catch you in the next video.